and thank you so much for joining Career Code, our podcast with everything about career and how to break into tech, as well as elevate yourself. My name is Angelina, and I'm your podcast host. I specialize in everything go-to-market enablement and sales strategy. I have my co-host here, Yousuf Khan.
Hello there. Good to see you. I'm Yousuf Khan, co-host and part-time intern to Angelina. I'm an investor at a partner at Ridge Ventures. We typically invest in B2B software. And prior to that, I've worked as a CIO and a CISO at multiple companies, as well as advising companies. And then in that time, I also happened to lead multiple teams, got to help a number of people in their careers, and then decided, well, maybe I could do a little bit more of this. And this was kind of the genesis of our thinking on this podcast. So Angelina, thanks for hosting. Thanks for putting this together.
Thanks so much, Yousuf. Yeah, and to piggyback, this whole podcast idea kind of sparked from Yousuf helping me out on my journey, getting into my next career opportunity and doing some amazing things on the background. I got to experience that firsthand. And I said, hey, if we're doing this on a smaller scale and locally, let's see how we can help the rest of the world. So thanks again for joining in. I do want to preface with the podcast is that Yousuf has no experience with the guests that join our show. It is kind of right then and there. He gets to meet them. He gets to know a little bit about them. And that's the magic sauce about Yousuf is he's just so good at supporting anyone that comes in his vicinity. So again, this is the first time Yousuf is going to be meeting our guest. The topic of today's show is going to be how to break into tech. We decided to start from there. Our guest is going to be TC, and we're going to have him join in the next few minutes.
I'm kind of nervous. Wow.
Don't be.
Who's behind the curtain?
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, TC. How's your day going?
Of course, it's going well. It's going well. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks so much. Just to kind of do a little bit of an introduction, TC and I met at a wonderful Tony Robbins conference. Him and I had some amazing conversations about tech. A little fun fact about TC, he actually just passed his Series 7 exam, right?
I will say it was a 65, not the 7, but
okay.
Similar.
Congratulations either way, 65% of the way.
Thank you. That's a good one.
Awesome. And so the reason TC wanted to join us was he's looking to elevate his career, looking for his next big opportunity, and we're asking Yousuf to help support him. So TC, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah, no problem. And again, thank you guys for having me. This is a really cool opportunity here. Yeah, so a little bit about myself. I have always considered myself to have an entrepreneurial spirit. And as Angelina said, I did pass my Series 65 exam in the beginning of January. To couple that, I also have my real estate license. I think I acquired that back in 2023, if I'm not mistaken. And so I've just kind of always had a curiosity to learn and to grow in career, personal relationships, just to build connections with people and just kind of build towards success. I know everyone has a different definition of success, but mine is just to kind of connect with people and grow and contribute in any way I can. I guess you could say for a career background, I've been working since I was 16 years old. In high school, got my first job at a salad shop. It's called Let Us Toss It. And, kind of did everything there from dishwashing, the POS systems, cleaning tables, stuff like that. And then throughout my young adulthood, kind of just had a variety of different jobs in retail and logistics and sales. Like I said, I have my real estate license, so I give that a shot. And still kind of just building and looking forward to establishing a foundation for my career at this point.
Awesome. Thanks so much, TC. Yousuf, take the baton.
Well, great to meet you, TC. Thanks for doing this. Definitely good to meet you. Just tell me a little bit about kind of what is top of mind for you right now as you think about your next chapter. What are you most curious about in terms of a career? Where do you think you're going to basically head towards, or where you want to head towards?
Yeah, so as Angelina said, we had some great conversations about tech, and that is kind of the field that I'm trying to enter into. I don't have the most experience in that field, but I do have experience in many other different fields, so I feel like my ability to adapt and learn would suit me to to enter this field. And really, I don't know too much about it. I just know that there's a lot of opportunities right now as the world is navigating AI and the implementation of that literally everywhere from like McDonald's to tech companies like Salesforce, for example. So I just have a natural curiosity of things like that, and just trying to get my foot in the door into the industry and just kind of trying to figure out where to start.
Fantastic. So, Angelina, with that, would it be possible to either look at TC's LinkedIn profile or
Absolutely.
be able to get their background? Okay. So just
You should be able to. And then
I could see that. So yeah, just keep browsing down. Let's just see. And then TC, what we'll do is let's review this briefly. So most recently, you've been at the Home Depot, working in sales. So clearly a very people-oriented individual. You're clearly hardworking and ethic. You've worked on the operations side as well as being kind of entrepreneurial. So I see that right offhand. That is, tell me a little bit about, give me a story that you think stands out where you did a great job in any one of these companies.
Okay, yeah. If I had to choose between them, I would go to J. Williams when I had the time as a sales assistant there. I'd say one of the most impactful things that I did there was working for a company called Toll Brothers. They're a pretty well-known builder. They're known as a luxury builder. And my time there, I was obviously a sales assistant, so I would basically assist potential clients when they would walk in or scheduled appointments. And I'd walk them through the process, essentially going through the tours, providing information about different properties, about the community itself, the project itself, and essentially establish a relationship with those customers to be able to hand them off to the actual sales agents that worked for Toll Brothers. So I would just build rapport, try to establish myself as a young professional, and make sure that the clients and the walk-ins feel welcomed and have product knowledge about the community and the company itself. There would be a lot of high net worth individuals that would come into the office, as it is a luxury brand. So, just navigating those relationships as a
So clearly being able to engage with people is a strong suit.
yes,
And
yes.
I see that. Let me ask you one of the, what is your favorite product at Home Depot? If I came in and said, hey, I'm blind, just like you're saying you want to go into tech and I'm going to Home Depot. Tell me a product you're like, you got to buy this, Yousuf.
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, we have over 100,000 products in the store, so there's a lot
Of
of things to
course.
choose from. But obviously, it's a home improvement store, and so people are working on, homes and whatnot. But I'd say one of the standout products, believe it or not, is the Milwaukee leaf blowers.
I'm
Those
right
things,
there with you.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, man,
Yeah. Okay.
those things are super helpful.
I can compete with. I can talk about that. Okay, I think we can stop sharing the LinkedIn profile. I have enough from my standpoint. Let's do the following. Let's get questions that you have top of mind about going into tech,
Hmm.
and then let's help you with your positioning. Would
Okay.
that be okay? What do you think?
awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. I
let's
have some written
uh,
down here.
go for it. So you go with a couple of questions, and Angelina, what I would say is I would like your take in terms of I think he'd be good from my standpoint, entry level in terms of sales, in within the sales function of a tech company, just based on kind of my initial assessment for what it's worth.
Hmm.
This is kind of what I tend to do. What is your
Hmm.
take?
I think more operational, like sales ops.
Yes.
Just from the conversations we've had, he's done a lot of more things on the logistical background. Like he mentioned, working with POS systems. But yeah, I would kind of follow and encourage the same
In the GTM function
in
in
the go to
operation.
market.
Okay, all right.
Correct.
So we're making some progress. So TC, tell me two or three questions that you have top of mind, then let's see how we can answer those.
Sure, yeah. Number one here would be what foundational skills or knowledge are often overlooked but can significantly elevate someone breaking into tech?
Okay. The good news is you have those skills already, and that's really about the people and the soft stuff. Okay, so soft skills are actually underappreciated. They're not given enough focus. I would say that actually there's been a radical change over the course of several years where people have said that it's actually important to be able to have the right level of skills for people engagement, being part of a team, being able to work within a team, being able to figure out where the friction points are, being able to sort of engage with people both within your team and then outside. So definitely one area, foundational, where I think you actually have strengths is being able to actually be part of a team and engage with people. So that's one. I think the second is really being able to demonstrate really a level of curiosity. I think across multiple industries, definitely in tech as well. You probably need to be able to actually understand, because the technology ecosystem just moves so quickly, being able to actually have a curious mind to be able to constantly improve and iterate and build and actually understand and process it. Like, these things are actually important. And I think you need to have a level of curiosity that's kind of important I think in tech in general. And then I think the third thing is really one of the skills is actually understanding the depths of a business. I think that skill and being able to actually, do that. So Angelina can talk a little bit about this, but she's been in sales enablement and sales operations. She's actually worked with customers. She can talk about, a company and what they do at a good level of depth. Just in the question that I asked you about Home Depot, you actually said, well, by the way, as you know, it's a home improvement store. You set that up. You said, well, I got 100,000 stores, 100,000
Yeah,
products.
products.
And we're going to basically, then I'll walk you through that. The fact is that, you didn't go directly and say, well, I think you should just buy this. You actually thought about it, and actually you've got the strongest skills to be able to do that. So a lot of people work in companies. It's very common that they don't actually have the level of depth of actually understanding what that business does. And sometimes, shockingly enough, that's even at the VP and at director levels. Where you actually don't have strong appreciation. So I think that one of the foundational skills that you need to be able to have is, whichever company you ever speak to be able to get a role, being able to understand what they do and using the time and effort to be able to research that. This is something that is typically overlooked and underappreciated.
And to piggyback on what Yousuf was saying, TC, like in my early career, when I was working with tech companies, I was 22, 23, had no idea kind of like all the softwares and all of the acronyms were my biggest challenge, because I was like, what does this mean? And I would just sit there in meetings and write out acronyms and then go back and, fake it till you make it, nod my head and say, yeah, I get it. And then on the back end, like Yousuf said, curiosity, would do the research, like, hey, what stood out to me the most? But what really made me successful early on was I would go in and talking to clients and understanding, like, hey, what business problem do you need to solve? I worked in IT staffing. I helped people hire. And for me, it wasn't just the thought process of like, why are you hiring this person? It was understanding the business purpose. And that's what made me stand out from all of the other vendors in that the companies we're working for was, hey, I'm not just, just trying to get something out of you. I'm understanding like what you're trying to solve, why you're solving this problem. How does it affect your career if you're not able to hire this person? And that's translatable in any role from an operations perspective, right? We're talking about sales ops, right? What problem does a salesperson have that I can help solve?
Gotcha.
All right. So
Very insightful answers, guys. Thank you.
Give us another question. Let's see how we can go there.
Let's roll on here. How could someone strategically build connections in tech when they don't have a network, and what unconventional methods have you seen work?
So, great question. The good news is in tech, networking, not just actual networking like Wi-Fi, but actual networking, people networking is actually an important thing and an important concept, especially from a career standpoint. I would argue the best way to, if you don't have a network, then you need to build it. That's pretty much the easiest way to be able to do it. It's actually important. Part of that, here are the things that I would take away. Number one is every meeting you have is an interview. You don't realize it at the time, but somewhere down the line, the connections are just built over time and you just don't know where it basically may land. Second is be open. Sometimes it's actually take a meeting, have a conversation. It's actually well placed to do that. The third is sometimes you actually have to be very deliberate and I wouldn't say strategic, but thoughtful about where you want to be able to spend your time. So one of the biggest advice I give is think about the spaces that you're most interested in. Right now, tech is a very wide thing. It's now embedded every aspect of our lives. One of the advice that I give is if you are deeply passionate about something, success typically follows. And TC, whatever that industry is, if you're interested in healthcare and tech, then there are thousands of companies doing that where you may have a personal cause or a mission that you're aligned to. If you're interested in particular types of technology because of a personal passion you have, it could range from drones right down to smartphones, right down to, particular software. That would be interesting. Even in your existing job, if you think about, having worked in retail in multiple companies, you may be really dissatisfied with some of the systems you've used. And you're like, surely there should be something better. You actually have a point of view. You actually have a vantage point that you are able to articulate and able to provide. And so with that in mind, think about the communities. Here are the steps that I would recommend. Number one is think about the companies that are doing work that is interesting to you. Number two is think about, who within your network has connections with people in those companies, okay? And see how you can basically build those. And number three is think about presence. Think about where you can be more present. Think about where those companies are typically presenting. It may well be them having a user conference. It may well be that they be presenting at a particular expo or at a particular conference. Show up to be able to see how that basically works and be able to build rapport. And the third thing, and the most important thing I would say is don't be afraid to ask. I think people spend far too much time, kind of thinking, well, if I reach out and they say no, what's the worst case? The worst case is they won't respond. The second worst case is they say, I'm not interested in connecting. That's okay. Then you move on to the next one, right? And one of the things that, we've learned in generational companies that have been built over time. If you think about companies that come out of YC or, Y Combinator, companies, even startups that I invest in, they start off with nothing, right? They themselves have to kind of network their way in to build a company. They have to get in front of potential customers. They have to look to hire a number of people, being able to do that through connections, right? So I think it's kind of important to approach things with an open mind. There isn't a complete playbook, but you have to take the first step. It's very, very, very difficult to do if you're not willing to engage with people. Then there's a different sort of networking. Then there's Reddit blogs and whatever you want to do online. But I see that you're a pretty personable individual and not just the roles and companies that you've basically worked for, but my read on the personality that you have. So I would say approach things with an open mind. Engineer, would that be fair? Do you have any things on your side?
100%. I think that sometimes the biggest opportunities I got were the most random ones. Case in point, Yousuf, how you and I met was through a sauna conversation with our mutual friend Tia, where Tia goes, hey, I have a friend who works on projects and he might be able to get you an opportunity or an interview. And in the back of my head, I go, everyone, tries to help. And then I sit there and I go, wow, I didn't realize I was connecting with such an amazing person who is connected to so many companies, who has such a great background as a CIO and working with other software companies. So you like Yousuf said, I think that's a live example of you never know. TC, going back to how you and I met, you were 2 rows in front of us. We were a group of 4. Group of 4, myself, Dan, and a couple of other people. And then you were 2 rows ahead of us and we had you come join the group. And look, now we're on a podcast talking about how you're going to break into tech. So you just never know.
The one thing I would say is just don't have expectations. Seriously. The world is a much better place if you are less transactional. The only transaction you care about is being able to be seen and be heard, right? And that's really the networking that benefits. And, the more people that, know about you and what you want to do, and I think that's important. And so with that in mind, you should be very clear about how you work on positioning. That's something that I'd like to make sure that you get some guidance. Third question, and then let's dive in from that side.
Sure. Yeah, that was great, guys. Thank you. Yeah, third question here. In a saturated tech market, how can a candidate with minimal experience position themselves as a standout applicant to hiring managers?
Okay, that's a perfect segue. First things first is you've got to know what you're going into, right? So in the past, I think it was very, very difficult. I think the world has radically changed with AI, specifically with the launch of ChatGPT. So people ask me this all the time. They're like, well, what's the best way for me to, get more up to date about AI? And I said, well, talk to it. So literally, you'd be surprised, OpenAI and these big foundational models like, Anthropic and others, they have more data than all of us combined and then some. Okay. It's not perfect, but it's a pretty good start to be able to do it. And so if you have a curious mind, I would strongly advise you to be able to, whoever it is looking to basically break in tech, try and do some level of questioning and actually understanding. That's one piece. The second is preparation is key. Right? Going in, remember, if you're having a 30-minute meeting with somebody, somebody who's met, maybe it's a job interview, maybe it's a first screen or others, DC, you want to be able to make sure that you're able to relate versus them being able to constantly explain. And so being able to demonstrate that you have taken time to prepare is a big part of getting into any company. But it takes time to be able to do that, especially in tech, because it can be very complicated. There's just so much depth out there. These are engineering driven products. If you haven't been an engineer, sometimes it's hard to be able to sort of get your head around if you haven't come from a tech background. But being able to simplify and be able to understand, you don't need to be the expert on it, but I think that would be really, really key. And then the third thing I would say is it's important to say, why you? What would you like to do where you would be able to add value? A lot of people, and we'll cover this in kind of the next section, are not able to do that for whatever reason. They've built a career, they know they can do well, they've got good character and good credentials, and they actually just need a chance. If people don't give people a chance, which is something I'd like to say I do very actively, it becomes very difficult. If one door closes, you have to look to find the next door and you need to figure out a way to open it. If I or Angelina open a door for you, it's your job to keep it open, however that basically is. Whether it's introducing somebody, you're being able to meet with them. They may not know you right off the bat, but they get to know you over time and say, okay, there's an opportunity here. Or they see somebody in the network to be able to that they could refer you in. There are thousands of stories like this. And so if you are going to break into a new industry, and by the way, I would have the same challenge if I was going to break into an industry that's something that I don't have experience with. So let's take an example. If I wanted to break into law, right? That, by the way, no pun intended, break into the law, not break the law, right? Just to be clear. Or break into
Sometimes they could go hand in hand.
Something go hand in hand, basically. But let's move on. Let's just say I was trying to go into real estate. You've got your real estate license. It takes time, no matter how much of a high level understanding I have, right? It takes time for me to actually understand what it takes to be successful in this space, which is what you've done. So I'd have to understand what it takes to be able to break in. And that requires me to speak to you to be able to say, hey, by the way, what's the big deal here? Right? I think it's exciting, or something exciting happening here. And I think you're in the same boat with tech. You see something very exciting happening in industry. You think it's going to be transformational and you want to be part of the industry. Right. And the same applies for hundreds of thousands of people every single day who are curious to take the next step in their career. And so I would take time to be able to think about that, be directive about it, and actually be able to be thoughtful about who can help you from that standpoint. And that's kind of important to be able to do. Does that help you at all? Does that give guidance?
Leveraging your network.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was very clear to follow. Thank you. That was great.
Angelina, anything to add there? Did I, if you're going to break into the law, Angelina,
break the law. I'm Eastern European. We know all about that.
Hey, but hey, I've lived all over the world. Don't mess around. I got this. Okay.
My Uncle Boris is, one phone call away.
I'll have him on speed dial. Keep going. Yeah.
I think the one thing that I do want to add is as you're going through this journey and trying to break into tech, this is speaking to TC and speaking to our audience out there, is I have firsthand been in that place where you feel like nothing's working out. That is the place that people grow the most, is when you keep having failures and you have a choice as an individual. You either keep pushing through and trying to get feedback, like Yousuf said, leveraging your network or creating a bigger network. Is in those difficult moments where you're like, nothing is going my way, keep pushing through, because you're on the verge of a breakthrough. That's what I've experienced. I've experienced this as a sales individual. I've experienced this from an enablement perspective. I've experienced this in personal life situations. It's just keep pushing through. The consistency will get you, right? But back to what Yousuf was saying, is finding that direction and going towards it and stumbling as you're going. You guys have seen those charts, right? Where it's like what the beginning is and what success looks like. And then it's, up and down, up and down, up and down. The journey isn't at the end of when you receive this success. The growth and the journey is in between. So really hone into that and lean into that piece as well.
Well said.
Okay. So TC, let's do the following. Let's assume that, and it's not hypothetical because I work in tech as Angelina does. Let's assume you're at a networking event and we call this the elevator pitch, right? And this is where, me and Angelina can help you from time to time. How would, let's just assume we think that, you would be a relatively good fit. And I say this relatively because we need to figure out which roles in the operational team within go-to-market or sales team at a tech company. You now meet somebody that we introduce or, at a networking event, as you best do it. And they say, hey, would like to know a little bit about you. Tell me how you would describe yourself. We'll give you about a minute to do it. Just do it from that standpoint. And then I'll describe you to you and we'll see how that goes. Does that sound good?
Sure, that
I
sounds
love
fine.
this.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay, yeah. So I think I'd introduce myself as a young aspiring professional that is trying to break into the tech field. I feel that I have great interpersonal skills and relationship building skills. I think my ability to handle and navigate those relationships can drive results in business. It can also drive, new customer acquisition, possibly just by being bubbly per se, and just having the depth of knowledge of how a business operates and works, and just having natural curiosity to that subject, I think would make me a good fit for any organization to help them drive to the results that they're looking for. And yeah, I guess that's where I would stop. I think I
Okay.
probably need
All
to
right.
work on it a bit
He's
more.
such
But
a quick learner. Look, he repeated
Okay.
everything you told him in the last 20 minutes. I haven't even done that, and I've talked to you for a while.
it was a
No,
bit off of
that's
the top, so I apologize. It
Yeah,
wasn't the
I
best.
love it. No,
okay.
it's
So
great.
that's great. Okay, so Angelina, shall we do this? Okay. So TC, let's just confirm. You and I have never met. This is the first time we're meeting.
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay, correct. Okay, good. All right. So here's how I would position you. Okay. And how I would basically position you if you were meeting somebody in the first we'll go through the assam. So Angela, let's just play along. So you're the potential hiring manager or somebody at this event, and I'll say, hey, Angela, great to meet you. I'm TC. Would love to tell you a little bit about myself. Could you give me a couple of minutes? Would that be okay?
Yeah, I would love to. We're actually looking to onboard a couple people from an operations perspective. So tell me what sets you aside from the rest.
Fantastic. Well, look, I look forward to sharing my profile. One of the things that you'll probably realize is that I haven't worked in tech, but that was the case for many people, and it's been kind of a key part of my career when I first started. For the last several years, one of the things that has always stood out about me is my ability to engage with people. Number two, be able to make sure that I have a strong work ethic, and number three, be able to drive results. When I first started, I've always been very entrepreneurial. I've always been working in core functions, in being able to engage with people. At UPS, I was an operations supervisor, being able to really look at complex processes and being able to engage with people to be able to get packages on time. It's more complex than you would realize, but our objective is to be able to drive things which are smooth. But I discovered that actually the feedback that people have told me over time is that I engage very well with people. And so I've worked in a number of big retail brands, whether it's Petco or the Home Depot, over several years. I understand those businesses. And what I understood was that driving great customer experience and being able to make sure that you have a very good operation is something that's key to a winning team. I want to be part of a winning team in the time ahead. I'm super interested in technology. I've spent time being able to understand what your company does. I'm super excited to be able to start my career, being able to be part of the operations team as part of a sales function. I've built a bit of depth and networking in this space, and I'd love to be able to part of the team to be able to help drive things further forward. I could give you guidance on what the best standout product you should buy at Home Depot. I'm happy to tell you what the best way is to look after your pet. I'm able to help you with thinking about what staffing looks like in a complex industry. The reason I mention those things is I'm very, very curious about how to be able to build a good career, but I'm also very curious about how a business operates, and I've done that throughout my career. And I'd love to have 30 minutes of your time in the future.
Love it. Bravo.
How does that sound,
TC,
TC?
That was
TC,
great.
you're amazing. You're hired on the spot.
I'd hire you, Yousuf. My God, that was awesome.
Okay, that's the signal. We just need to know whether you'd hire that individual. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
great.
Okay. All right. So that look, the lesson learned there is more than anything else, and look, I do this all the time. It's important to be able to think about the following. What are the three things that you want to make sure that people walk away from when they meet you? Okay. So when you meet one person like Angelina and she introduces me to you, right? And we introduce you to other people, there should be some degree of consistency, like what makes TC stand out. Okay. And you heard that in my tone, right? And which was about work ethic, curiosity, being able to work with people. I said that all the time, right? It doesn't matter. The second thing was to be able to demonstrate that you're both hardworking and you want to be able to drive outcomes. You mentioned the fact that you wanted to be part of a team, right? And that was kind of important. So you immediately kind of not able to say, well, I want to manage all this sort of stuff, etc. And then you were able to bring in a little bit of depth of demonstrate. Now you worked at these big brands, and that's a decision point. Remember, these are big brands. It's actually to your example. Now, you could say, hey, by the way, you've been, you've been to Home Depot, do you know how many products they actually have and what the best selling one is? Like that's a way of conversing and actually building rapport. So I would basically, again, first time we've met, I'm sure it could get better over time, but that's a flavor of how I think you should be able to position yourself as you go into a new entry role.
I think what's amazing about being able to have a conversation with Yousuf and seeing a third party perspective is Yousuf has hired a lot of people in the past, right? You can see what are the qualities in a person, and any good hiring manager could see what those qualities are. And if there's a couple of skill gaps that you need to fill in, a good manager would walk you through, and like kind of to earlier Yousuf's point is give you the opportunity. There are a lot of people who can maybe not present themselves well initially, but they have the skill and the work ethic to do so, right? And the purpose, and I think this kind of is going to tie everything in and kind of come to a close. And the purpose of this podcast and being able to engage in your network or grow a larger network is someone will see something that we don't see in ourselves, and use a great example of your elevator pitch. His versus mine, or as well as TC's versus Yousuf. Yousuf's like, hey, no, speak on this and this will stand out the most, right? And that's the purpose of our podcast, is being able to kind of reach more people, help more people. Yousuf mentioned earlier, technology is ever evolving. My last piece of advice to you is staying curious. It's not just initially getting in your career. That's what sets everyone apart from the rest of the world, right? Is if you stay curious, you're never going to learn everything out there, but at least you have kind of some overview and basic knowledge of the world. And that will make you stand out and being inquisitive, and people will start being more inquisitive in you of like, hey, this kid like worked at Home Depot. Now he's working in tech. What's his story? It's so interesting. The connections and the stories with people is the most important part, in my personal opinion.
Telling a story is important. You have a good story, TC. You should be able to talk about it. I'd like to know that, Angelina and I have helped you tell your story and be able to do that. Second is demonstrate interest, right? Everyone, there's no shortage. Like if I told you that we can break down the barrier and say, hey, you want to meet with a bunch of folks? We can get you to meet a bunch of folks. That's not a problem. The problem is, what do you want those people to know? What do you want them to walk away with, knowing about you, and how to be able to make sure that you can do that? And sometimes that's within a company. You could be working, you may want to say, I don't want to be working in tech, or I want to do, but even in the job that you are in, that requires you, as you basically move up, is people need to know why you stand out. People need to know what makes you special. And all I'm basically saying is being able to articulate that is just part of the journey. And I hope that's been helpful to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for joining us. And to our viewers there, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please reach out directly to our LinkedIn channel as well as our YouTube channel. We're more than happy to bring on more people and help you guys either elevate your career, break into your next tech opportunity, or just kind of, if you're looking to make a career switch. It doesn't necessarily have to be something granular, but grandiose. But Yousuf and I are here to help, and we look forward to seeing you guys on the next episode. Thanks so much.